Good evening and welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting of May 8th, 2024, held at 400 Slocum Road here in Dartmouth. At this time, I'm going to ask if everyone has a cell phone, if they would be kind enough to silence it or to place it on mute. I'd also ask that we all stand so that we can pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd ask that you all remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of our soldiers, past and present. Thank you. This meeting, I'd like to announce to our viewers at home and to the audience that this meeting is being recorded by Dartmouth Community Media. I'd also like to announce at this time that our next regular scheduled meeting for the Board of Appeals is Wednesday, May 22nd of this year. And moving on to the public hearings portion of tonight's meeting, the first and the only matter that we have is a continued matter. It's a variance case. It's ZAV 24-2. It was continued from March 13th of 2024. The petitioner in the case is James Lemieux. He's also the owner of the property. His representative is attorney Michael McVeigh. The subject property is located at 96 Bryant Street, also known as map 178, lot 135, and it's located within the single residence A district. The case was legally advertised on February 22nd and February 29th of this year. Just in case we didn't waive the reading of the abutters list, I'd entertain a motion, gentlemen.
Make a motion that we waive the reading of the abutters list.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. At the previous meeting, we really didn't have any discussions on the matter, other than the fact that I had read into the record the denial letter of the building inspector. The denial letter was dated January 9th of 2024. I also read into the record an opposition that was dated March 8th of 2024, and it was an opposition from a LaShawn DePina. So at this point in time, I've done that so far, at least at the prior hearing date.
Sorry, the original, the first letter you picked up was from the board of what?
Excuse me, we'll get to that. All right, just one sec. You're gonna have an opportunity to speak, all right. So the matter that's before us is a variance request, and in this case, the petitioner is seeking a variance for lot area and frontage relief in order to construct a single-family residence. I had previously read the denial letter of the building from the building department. If any of you members feel that I need to reread it again, I can do so. Do you find that there's a need to do that? No. All right. So at this point in time, and sir, you will have an opportunity. I'm just gonna have the petitioner come forward, and everyone will have an opportunity if they wanna speak, either in favor or in opposition. One thing that we've always done as a board, since I've sat here, commencing as an alternate member, we've always given people an opportunity to be heard. At this point in time, I'm gonna call upon the petitioner's representative, Attorney McVeigh, to come forward and state his case.
I can bring this wherever you'd like, Mr. Chairman.
I believe for the media purposes, they usually like it somewhere around here because of where the cameras are. But I'll leave it to our media director to be the final say on that. Somewhere in that vicinity, facing sort of. Yes, exactly. It's my understanding. Is that correct, Michelle?
Yeah. What feet? You can turn it towards the wall. Speaking. Okay, yeah.
I might just hold this, Mr. Chair.
Okay, that's fine.
It's gonna be hard for him to make the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Mike McVeigh from Markey Walsh Law, 50 Homer's Wharf, New Bedford, Massachusetts. Thanks for hearing us tonight. I'm here, like you said, for Mr. Jim Lemieux. Sorry, I'm going to struggle with that all night. He's the owner applicant for 96 Bryant Street in Dartmouth. So like you said, we're here hopefully to achieve a variance from the lot area requirement and the frontage. If I may, I'm going to use a couple of these visual cues. I think if you'll indulge me, I'll just give a brief but I think important background on this particular parcel. So this parcel right here, this was a 1968 subdivision of land by Jim's grandmother, Lenora.
I can stop you just for 1 second. Is that the map, I mean, is that the Plan 77, page 15?
I believe that's, yes, it is. Yep.
I just want to make sure I can follow. Thank you.
Yeah, this entire tract was a family farm, going back. Jim's grandmother, in 1968, had it properly subdivided, and I think on June 13th, 1968, on the very same day, each of these parcels was conveyed to a family member. So our parcel that we're here tonight about is parcel C. Now, what's important to note is in 1968, when this was subdivided and recorded, this area was zoned general residence. And at that time, the zoning requirements for lot area were 15,000 square feet, and the frontage requirements were 100 feet. So, like you might have mentioned in the beginning, this lot, our lowest plot, has about 28,000 square feet, and we're here because we need 40,000 square feet, and we're at about 110 feet of frontage, we need 150 in single residence A. Now, fast forward 3 years, and at town meeting, Dartmouth approved a warrant that changed the zoning for this area from general residence to single residence Charter C. No zoning change was affected. The very next year, 1972, they changed it to single residence A, which it is today. At that time, this lot became non-conforming. Now, I'm going to get to this in a little bit, but, and I will address the merger issue in one moment. Right here to where my right hand is, parcel E, which was not part of the subdivision, was held by Jim's father, who was, after 1968, the owner of the lot we're here today. So it was held in common ownership. So, starting in 1972, this becomes a non-conforming lot held in common ownership with an adjacent parcel.
I need you to be a little closer to the microphone.
You can move the mic up.
It's sort of difficult for you to actually use and portray it there. I understand the
A little more comfortable.
limitations.
But what's important is, let's call it the nonconformity common ownership problem begins in 1972. Now, what I'm going to emphasize a lot tonight and in this section is the intent. The intent of the subdivision and the conveyance from his grandmother to all the family members was to keep the land in the family, okay? When Thomas was conveyed our parcel, the intent was always to convey it to his son when he came of age. So we fast forward to 1994, where Thomas conveys the adjacent land and conveys it to his daughter, who's here tonight, Jim's sister, so that the non-conforming common ownership issue is resolved. So for 22 years, it is held in common ownership with an adjacent parcel. Now, coming up in 1996, Tom, Jim's father, realizes there's probably, let's call it, just to be clear, and he wants to be very clear, he wants to have this a buildable lot to give to his son. He applies to the Dartmouth ZBA. Right on his application, and I have copies of everything, he lists the reason for this request is to verify the lot buildability so that I can give it to my son so that he can build a home for himself. That was in April 1996. Michelle was kind enough to give me the meeting minutes. And in the meeting minutes, again, Jim's father, Thomas, stated, he states that he just wants to give this lot to his son for buildability purposes. He just wants to make sure that it will be buildable. So in July 1996, the ZBA delivers a variance that allows for the buildability of the lot. Now, I know that variances lapse. 2 years later, 1998, right after the ZBA allows for the buildability, he conveys it to Jim. So Jim, our guy, takes ownership in, I think, July 23rd, 1996. Now, he's got in his hand a positive buildability determination from the ZBA. I don't know what happened. Things happen, life gets in the way.
One sec, for which parcel is it at that point in time? I'm trying to follow the chronology here. And I understand it's complicated, it's not easy to deliver. So in 1996, he gets a variance that allows him to build on which parcel?
Parcel C.
Okay.
Parcel C.
Fair enough,
Which is
that's-
today the same dimensions, 96 Bryant Street. So his dad conveys the property to him. He's got a buildability determination from the ZBA in his hand. Don't know what happened, wasn't built on. 2 years later, 1998, Jim requests from, I think at the time it was called a zoning determination request from, at the time, Building Commissioner Dave Silvera, gets a positive building determination 2 years after he's the ZBA, okay? Again, nothing was happened, nothing gets built on. 4 years later, there's yet another inquiry, and the entire time, the intent is to ensure that this is a buildable lot. So 4 years later, there's another inquiry to then Building Commissioner David Silvera. I have all this here if you'd like a copy. David Silvera again confirms lot C, parcel C, 96 Bryant Street is a buildable lot, okay? So we fast forward to 2023, the entire time, the owner, personal reasons, doesn't build on the lot. The entire time, gentleman's paying, never avails himself to Chapter 61 tax treatment, pays full boat taxes on the lot. Finally comes up with an opportunity to, use this as part of his retirement. Comes to the offices of Markey and Walsh, and then this process begins. Now, before we go any further, and I know, Mr. Yeoman, you want to talk about this, I want to just address it directly. The nonconformity, adjacent ownership, merger issue comes up a lot. So for 3 reasons, I don't think merger should apply to this lot. Briefly, as you can tell, this is kind of a convoluted, long case. So case law on this type of fact pattern is hard to find. I think last time I was in front of you, a different case, I brought a separate identity test that the SJC or the land court had adopted. In this case, I found a case called Vetter versus the city of Attleboro. It actually, when I found it, it's an SJC case. It takes place like 4 houses down from where I live. But in this case, the SJC adopts a test to see if there is a physical barrier between plots so as to prevent, as an element when your analysis to see if there has been merger. That's one. Now, it's not a highly and widely cited case, I can't lie, but it's been cited. And it's important because in this case, and this is reflected in the meeting minutes that I was provided, when Jim's dad, Tom, went for the 1996 variance request, the town went out, did a site walk. They confirmed that there has been, and there still is, a stone wall that borders, again, our guy's lot, Mr. Chair, and then Jim's sister's lot, which has been, she's owned since 1994. There's a stone wall that separates the 2 lots. So I think, to the extent that SJC has weighed in on something like a stone wall that's been there for as long as anyone can remember, I think that there's weight to that. Number 2, I think that this board could find that, and this admittedly is a bit of a stretch, in the first paragraph of Chapter 40A, Section 6, the grandfather provision, that this lot has always been intended to be a residential lot, so that you could find that what he's requesting here is an expansion of a non-conforming use and could be granted if it's not substantially more detrimental than the existing nonconformity used to the neighborhood. I understand that that's a little bit of a reach, but I think in this case, because of the fact pattern, it's out there. And number 3, if this board is of the opinion that there has been merger, I think there's a lot of problems with that. One, because merger would only have occurred during 22 years from 1972 to 1994 when Tom conveyed the adjacent parcel to his daughter. During those, and then up until 1996 when the ZBA and the town of Dartmouth had a bite at the apple, opened up the books, did a site walk. It was, nobody came out in, the minutes reflect, nobody came out in opposition. In fact, some people came out in support of that ZBA request. And at this point, since 1994, it's been 30 years since the adjacent land has, what I'll call, has been divorced from Jim's land. So it's now been in separate ownership longer than it was ever in common ownership with an adjacent parcel. So I just wanted to address that directly because I think that's the gateway inquiry about a lot of the issues, and I'd like to just get right through that. So if I may, I'm going to just change this visual.
Of course it is. Why wouldn't it?
So this board may recall in a different presentation, I made a similar board that sort of shows the area, the vicinity, and I had a legend, I think I attached a legend that showed the different parcels and how much of land area they each had. In this case, I didn't think that was even necessary. As you can see, this is just simply a screen capture from the Dartmouth GIS, right? This entire area is about just shy of 1/3 of a mile in radius. Okay. So for reference, it's 40,000 square feet minimum lot area in SRA right now today. So that's roughly 0.92 acres. I would imagine, I think I did a count, there's like 4 different parcels out of however many you see here, there's 4 or 5 different parcels that have that meet that. And I bring this up, and I only bring it up to illustrate that what's being proposed is completely consistent, if not more appropriate for the neighborhood than what's currently exists, then it's completely consistent with what does exist. I think it's just another piece of evidence that goes in my client's favor. So, lastly, and I want to call this in the sort of totality of the circumstances. I understand, I've been in front of this board 3-4 times. I've seen other applications. I understand this board is extremely strict and extremely reluctant to grant lot area variances, and I understand. I think in this case, it's a great example of a good case in which to grant it. Mr. Lemire has owned the property since 1996. Maybe he intended to originally build on it, didn't. Somewhere along the way, this became his supplemental retirement plan. He has an agreement in place with a local guy. He actually lives right down the street. I'm sure he's watching right now. So, gentleman lives right here, right on Wilbur Ave. 2 small kids, 2 small boys. He's looking to build a modest home on the property, has a deal sort of in place contingent upon getting, zoning relief. I actually brought the plan if it's relevant. The plan, if approved, is just a modest 2,200 square foot house.
Before we get there, Counselor, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. I just want to go back, because logistically, I want to make sure I understand this. There are 3 parcels at play here, maybe 4, right? Parcel E is also part of this, because if there's merger, there may be merger between parcel C and E, or is it parcel C and B?
It's only between parcel C and E.
C and E. So, when this plan was created, the one back in 1968, there were already some structures in place. And I don't know what was there first, but parcel A is the one that has the dwelling out in the corner of the property, if you will. Does that make sense? You want to look at that. That's parcel A. When this was created, this was all owned by one person. A, B, C, and E were all owned by the same person.
Correct.
So we can say that in 68, it was owned by the same individual. And then which was the first parcel to be conveyed out?
Mr. Chair, they were all conveyed on the exact same day.
So A, B, and C, and E are all conveyed out to someone else?
E's not part of this subdivision. E was conveyed in 3 parts, starting in 1957.
So E was conveyed in 3 parts. But let's look at B, A, B, and C. So at the time that this was created, it was created for a Leonie Lemieux.
Correct,
And she was the individual, is a she, correct?
correct.
She was the one that owned all 3 parcels, A, B, and C.
Correct.
And then at some point, they conveyed one of these out, right? A, B, or C, or they're still owned by the same individual?
On the same day that this plan was recorded, all 3 parcels were conveyed to different folks.
They were conveyed to different folks. So A, B, and C were conveyed out.
Correct.
All right. So the common ownership with C and E occurs when?
The common ownership occurs the day of conveyance, June 13th, 1968. But I would only,
Convey, common ownership with what? Parcel E?
the common ownership of parcel E, the ownership of parcel E is the same as the ownership of parcel C on the day that parcel C was conveyed to Tom, Jim's father.
There's a protection period there after a plan is approved that there is not gonna be, that the plan would still be acceptable as it's been divided. I don't know if it's 2 years or 5 years.
It's 5 years.
Maybe on an A&R, I think it's only 2 or 3, and I think on a subdivision plan, a full approved subdivision plan, it's either 5 or 6, if I remember correctly, it's somewhere around there. But, so you're saying that when parcel C, or when parcel, that's what I'm not understanding. Explain that to me once again.
Parcel E is identified, but it is not part of this subdivision on this plan.
But it's held, and at that point in time, it was held by Thomas and Helena Lemieux.
Correct.
And parcel C was also owned by Thomas and Helena Lemieux.
Effective this day, correct. When the day that this was recorded was the same day it was conveyed.
It was conveyed. And at what point was C conveyed, and who's C held by now? By what's his name here? James Lemieux. And when did James Lemieux acquire title?
July 23rd, 1996. Yeah, I apologize if I'm being unclear. It's
It seems like maybe my board members were following it, and maybe I wasn't able to. I'm thinking of other things here. One of the things that screams out to me is the Sitco case on this, but this is not a situation in which the law is being divided now. It already has been divided.
I was keyed to the Sitco case. I took a long look at it, citing references, and yeah, it's an expansion, in my opinion, of an 81L exception to the subdivision control law. I think this was properly subdivided not only because of that, but also because of the frontage. So I think that this is the subdivision was not an issue, but I wanted to be upfront about the common ownership issue right away.
Okay.
But
Now, and parcel E is held by whom at this point?
Parcel E is held by Jim's sister,
And her name is?
Paula.
Paula Flannery.
All right. And when did she acquire title of parcel E?
1994, I have the deeds if anybody needs them. So that's the day that the common ownership, I call problem, ends. Because Thomas, his father, conveys out the adjacent parcel.
Made that out in 1994, and then they get a variance in 96.
For parcel C.
All right,
If I may.
continue, absolutely.
So, look at, I'm passionate about this case, and we've talked a lot about it, and when you come in front, I'm sure when you've seen it all, and people come in front of here, stand at the podium, or they're pro se, or they have attorneys, and this is the most important issue in front of them, and it's do or die. And in this case, I honestly believe this is the most important thing to these people right now. And I know that doesn't particularly bind you to any type of decision, but when you look at the intent, right, going back to 68, and you look at each step along the way, you know, I want to say Lenora to her kids, to hold for Tom and Helena for their son, you know, he holds it for 20 years. He's clear with the ZBA when he applies. This is for my son, every step of the way, the site walk. You know, he gives it to his son. His son takes it to David Silvera at 2 different occasions. Hey, I just want to make sure this is a buildable lot, okay? So if you think about it from the perspective of Mr. Lemire, you know, the guy's worked on the waterfront his entire life. He's got 3 pieces of paper, Mr. Chair, in his hand from the City of Dartmouth letterhead, and it says, this is a buildable lot. He never tries to run a Chapter 61 of it, you know, he doesn't try to avail himself to that. He just pays full boat taxes for coming up on 30 years, thinking, I got something I'm gonna be able to cash out at the end of my working career. The local kid, I don't, what is he, a couple doors down, he couldn't make it here tonight. They have an agreement in place contingent upon this. You know, and this, in my opinion, this project makes sense, and this is the type of project that I think if you're looking as a board for a reason to apply some discretion and approve a lot area variance, this is the case. I know I spent a lot of time going through the nuances of the years, and I guess that only goes to demonstrate that these aren't shifty people or schemers, or they don't have an agenda. They're just regular folks who had land that was given to them in the family, paying taxes on it every single year. Hey, at the end of the journey, I'm going to be able to sell this, get a chunk of change, and move on with my life. And, you know, and there's a lot of frustration from normal folks who are just like, I don't understand. My lot is huge compared to other lots. And I know, again, that's not binding. And I've been paying taxes my entire life on this property. You know, this house is stubbed in sewer. It's ready to go. I think the building plan that Mr. Pike, who's the prospective purchaser, has in place is extremely modest and completely appropriate for the property. And I also, if you recall, board, last time I was here, there was an abutter right down the street who brought something up, and I want to bring it up. He came up and he had mentioned something about, it was a little hard to follow, but this empty lot is being used as a cut-through for kids coming from UMass Dartmouth or something like that. And I guess what? I agree. Because I think, and I think the board may agree, that allowing a parcel to sit, and I mean a good, healthy-sized parcel to sit vacant is not the best use of the land at all. You know, that attracts nuisance, that attracts vandalism, that attracts trespass. So to the gentleman's point, he's not here tonight, I'd say exactly, we just want to have a modest home with Nick Pike has 2 young kids running around the yard like this, and pardon my passion for this project, but like this project makes sense. And I gotta believe that it is in the town of Dartmouth's best interest to allow for something like this, or maybe put it conversely, it's not, I don't know how it could be in the town of Dartmouth's best interest to disallow this and allow a lot that was obviously intended always to be a buildable lot to remain vacant. That's hard for me to take. You know, happy to speak to anything. I did bring a presentation about the hardship. I'm ready to pivot to whatever the board, but that's.
So, just going back on the lot ownership, and I don't want to be thick about this, but who owns parcel A right now?
Can they? Cherry? Jerry?
Gilman, Jerry Gilman.
All right, so it's someone, and who owns parcel? Who owns parcel A?
They're saying Jerry.
Jerry Gilman.
No, Jeremy's the wife's.
Oh, what's his name?
And who owns parcel B?
Fisher.
Fisher.
Parcel B is owned by I think maybe this gentleman here?
Say it again?
Parcel B?
No, so I own, I guess what would be half of parcel B.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, during my journey through this case, I did realize that there was a subdivision of parcel B unrelated to anything here in 2001? 2002?
I'd like to see that plan. Do you have that plan?
No.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I did not print that plan out. I didn't feel it was germane. but I can certainly provide that.
All right. I know I've asked a lot of questions. I want to give some of our board members an opportunity to ask any questions of the petitioner. I just wanted to make sure I followed. I didn't want to really interrupt his presentation, but I also didn't want him to go down a path that I wasn't following. Any one of you have any questions of the?
At this time, Mr. Chairman.
Couple of questions. Attorney McVeigh, do you have any idea how big parcel E is?
I believe it's 1.1 acre.
1.1?
Acre. It is conforming. It has always been conforming.
So it has the 150-foot frontage and the conforming to the R40 or conforming to?
I believe it has both the front.
It's not a subject that's not part of this application, it's just a question, just to see how big the parcel is and what's the frontage on it, you know?
Okay, hold on. If you're going to speak, you're going to go up to the microphone and just identify your name and address, please.
Paula Flannery, 100 Bryant.
Paula, what's your last name?
Flannery,
Flannery. Are you the one that owns parcel E?
yes. I'm having a hard time keeping track of all the letters, parcel A, B, C, D, and E. But I can say that that lot was sold on 92 to the Fistoris when they subdivided that bigger section. And it was 100% conforming because that unusual lot with the barn has frontage on both Bryant Street and Wilbur Avenue. So they were able to conform with no problem.
Just to make sure, I'm not questioning the legality of
Okay.
parcel E, it's not here, I'm sure it's legal and
Okay.
I'm just trying to get a feeling how big parcel E is, if it had, you said 1.1 acre.
Parcel E, her parcel is, I'm 99% sure is 1.1 acre.
1.1.
1.1, and do you know what the frontage is, more or less?
Yeah, it's at least 150. Yeah.
I don't know what I'm getting at. And Attorney McVeigh, I think there's a structure shown on the 19, on the 77 division, is that the, on this plan, I'm not sure.
Yeah, the
date on it.
1968 plan,
The
there's a-
1968,
There's a structure,
that shed structure?
to shed structure, and to the best of anyone's knowledge, it predates Jim's
Right,
birth
and that
date.
structure's still there.
Still there, still has a roof.
You know, what was the use of that structure at that time, or? Okay.
Gotta get up there.
Yeah, excuse me, you gotta go up to the microphone if you wanna speak. And identify yourself, please. Yeah, you can go up. Name and address, please.
James Lemure, 16 Maple Street, North Dartmouth. The structure you're inquiring about was there when I was born in 1957. It was probably built in the 1800s for all I know. But I believe the original intent was a chicken coop. When my father eventually ended up with the property, he restored that shed, probably in the early 70s or something like that. And then it was just a shed where we stored stuff.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know at one point you wanted to speak. If you'd like to speak, you can come up.
I don't know when you should.
I'm gonna read it into the record. Before you do that, I'm going to read some comments. We have some town board comments that I just want to read into the record. One of them is from the Conservation Department, and it indicates that a review of this .64 acre parcel on the town GIS mapping indicates that a wetland area exists approximately 50 feet off-site and to the southeast of the parcel. This mapping is at best 80% accurate, as it is not ground truthed. Based on this mapping, the 100-foot buffer zone to this wetland extends into the southeast corner of the parcel. Should work be proposed in that area, then a wetland permit would be required. Given this circumstance, I would recommend that the applicant apply for a wetland A1 assessment through conservation to get an accurate on-the-ground assessment of those wetland conditions, and a further determination as to how they affect any site work. Board of Health says the applicant will be connected to town water and sewer. If the applicant is planning on raising an existing dwelling to construct a new single-family home, then the health department will require an asbestos survey and conduct an inspection. And the DPW has indicated that the property has access to water and sewer utilities. A stormwater review permit shall be required through DPW. I hadn't read these into the record, so I wanted to do so. If you could please identify yourself and address?
My name is Moses Lynn. I live at 92 Bryant Street, which is a portion of parcel B.
Okay.
So I just have kind of questions, in all honesty. One question I have is I was hoping I'd got to see it tonight, but we don't actually have a write-up of parcel B unless that's it. No. So my parcel originally in the maps that are shown is 160 foot of frontage, which would put them below the line at 108. My lot shows from the town that I got 150. So that was in 2002 when he asked for a variance to be able to build on his lot. And my question about the variance is, since the idea is, and their attorney has mentioned, that it's for him, and I get that, but my understanding is he's not the one that wants to build there, right? So he's not attempting to live there. He's looking to sell that property. I've done a bit of research, and there's a possibility that the previous owners who built their house in 2002 on parcel B had a potential case for adverse possession on at least 10 foot of their frontage, which would have added to the 160 originally parceled out in 1968. So my question would be, is if his lot is in fact issued a variance, am I able to subdivide my lot? Because I would have the equal amount of frontage and area if I split my lot in half.
We don't answer hypothetical questions here.
It's theoretical, because we're giving a variance for a short lot that directly abuts my lot. And
Well, I'll tell you right now, one of the things I would like to see before I even move forward with this is I need to see this other plan that shows how parcel B has actually been divided.
okay,
And that's not something I'm gonna request of you, I'm gonna request that of the applicant's
Okay.
representative. But, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, is there something else that you'd like to say?
well, so I bought my house with the understanding from the town that that parcel was not buildable. And I asked numerous times and read various laws to ensure that what I was purchasing next to was either something I could purchase myself, which I offered to the gentleman within maybe a month of moving in there, right? I would overly enjoy being able to purchase that lot. The other gentleman that's not here, but I'm for sure is watching on TV, lives right down the street from me. I have no issue with them potentially living there. My question is if I choose to do something different with my lot, this becomes a case for me to be able to do that. It also becomes a case for Lot E to be able to do that in the future, and it also becomes a case for the second, so we'll call it Lot A1, which is technically what it would be now, because Lot B was split into two lots, right? So there are at least 4 houses on that street that could create the same amount of space that they're trying to build on. Just along that road. Almost every house could subdivide their property and create the same amount of space. It is, cut it in half. It's less than half an acre. It's 0.6, sorry, it's just over a half an acre with 41 feet less frontage. So if I have 150 foot of frontage and I cut that in half, right, down the side, because I can create an easement for a road within my property line. My point being is that I wonder why in 2002, when a variance was given, nothing was built. And the same thing happened in 96, when a variance was given and nothing was built. And so here we are in 2024, looking for another variance on a property because someone else is willing to build on it.
You'll have an opportunity.
And they're just questions. Again, if a house gets built there, a house gets built there. I don't think it's a terrible idea for the family that's looking to build on the property to live on that property. I don't, but the one thing I do worry about is what it could potentially create in that area. Because if at some point they sell their property and someone starts coming to you to subdivide properties in that area, then that area loses basically everything it's got, because it's a nice, wide open area. And I mean, again, that's up to you.
I'm just listening.
I understand.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
I don't think so.
All right.
But if anyone has questions, I'm more than willing to answer them.
Does any board members have questions of this gentleman?
My question is, you said you called the town and the town said it's not a buildable lot?
I did not call. I came here on 3 occasions prior to buying my home to find out whether or not the lot was buildable.
And they said it's not buildable?
100% told me it was not buildable. In reading the bylaws, it was my understanding that it wouldn't be buildable. Again, on the emotional front, there's a portion of me that wants it to happen, right? But again, I bought a home with the understanding that it wasn't, right? And then when I read the laws, it shouldn't be. But then as you read the history, maybe it should, right? And I'm just trying to gain understanding as to what I'm in for.
Gentlemen, any questions?
Of this gentleman?
Yes?
No.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Mr. McVeigh, is there anything that you want to add, or you want?
No, I
know your
appreciate-
client wanted to say something. I'm more than glad to allow him to go back up and speak.
I just appreciate the comments. I would just say we didn't get a variance, and we only had, Mr. Lemire only got 1 variance in 96, and then anything subsequent in 2002 and 1998 were just zoning compliance forms, which I don't believe the town allows for anymore. And then, other than that,
Thanks for clarifying that.
yeah, and just, I think there's a little conflict here where he has an interest in potentially purchasing the lot if this doesn't go through. I think we could appreciate that.
I would like to say something if I can. Yes, the property was meant to be in the family and for me to build a house there. However, life got in the way. Sorry. But I did meet all the requirements of the town over these years, paid my taxes. It was deemed a buildable lot. Silvera told me it's buildable. I didn't apply for a reduction in taxes because I was under the understanding by him that if I did that, then it would become a non-buildable lot, which is why I didn't apply for the reduction in taxes. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Mr. Yuma, you have any questions for anyone?
I don't have any questions, but I do have a comment. They're lucky that I'm not a voting member on this board, because historically, I don't approve undersized lots. I would not approve this variance. We've had numerous people come before us asking for size variances and frontage variances, and we have not granted them. Just because you're gonna open a can of worms, like this gentleman just said, that if you grant this variance, then anybody can come in here and say, well, I have 5,000, I've had this in the family forever, 5,000 square feet, 50 foot of frontage. And there's plenty of lots out in Dartmouth that are just like that. I want to put a house up. Give me a variance. And when anybody, and I think I said this as soon as I started sitting on this board, I will not grant a variance on an undersized lot. So I just wanted that to be very clear. The only other thing that I would like to hear is your hardship. What's your hardship?
So, thank you. So the chair, I think, referenced the comment, and I printed out a mass mapper with some wetland that's delineated, and I attached that same comment from the Concom. The hardship is the wetland, which is about 50 feet, give or take, from the corner of the lot, essentially, and consistent with what the Concom agent said, making the southern portion of this lot hard to build on, impossible to build on. Now, yeah, I think this is still in Dartmouth, this may be in New Bedford here, but this affects Paula's lot and Jim's lot, and this is the diocese lot, and I don't think they intend to build.
The wetlands is or is not on lots, parcel C?
Well, the wetland, as delineated on the mass mapper, has a margin of error. So it's outside the boundaries, so the answer to your question is no.
Okay.
I think it's within the margin of error.
I think also the Concom agent indicates that it's not certain, so they would have to actually go do a site visit and have it plotted out. But that in and of itself doesn't necessarily meet the requirements.
I think that would be a good reason for a relief on the setback
Setback,
requirements,
yes.
probably not the
Not on
various,
the, not on whether or not it's a
area, but
buildable lot.
it's stuff that we always been consistent with this, but in this particular case, I just see that the owner's father or the family, they were consistent on making sure that this is a buildable lot in the way, they applied to the zoning board of appeal. This is the only difference on this lot that I see, because that is unique to this lot. I'm not saying that I'm in favor of probably, but.
Hold on. I don't know if you remember, but someone has come before us, I believe it was in the Seabury Heights area,
Right.
where they had an undersized lot in which our board, but it wasn't the makeup of us, it was many years prior to we sitting on this board, had granted a variance, and then they did not exercise their rights under the variance, and then they came to us probably about 4 years ago. And the fact that they had previously been granted a variance, that really didn't give a lot of weight, or place a lot of weight on our decision on how we were gonna handle it. So just for
I'm
consistency,
okay, yeah.
I just wanna remind us, remind the board, just generally, of the fact that that exists.
Right, and again, I mean, we mentioned this at the last meeting, and the other case too that you had, that, we don't want to set a precedent for this, because already indicated that he has a similar case, the next door and down the street,
may.
and, yeah.
Yeah, and the gentleman, I think, was implying that this is a subdivision in some way. As you know, this is not a subdivision. This is a variance request for a lot area and frontage, variance. And I would just argue, as a general point, this should be taken on a case-by-case basis. And as you can tell, these are compelling facts. And you talk about a ZBA decision. He's got a ZBA decision. He's got 2 zoning determinations letters. The guy's walking around with 3 pieces of paper, and, if you want to fault the guy, he didn't build. He didn't exercise his right, but he tried to maintain communication with the building department to stay consistent, and is this a buildable lot? This would say, don't punish the guy for sitting on a property.
All right. So I haven't allowed, but is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak either in opposition or in favor of this petition? So I know you would like to speak, so you can come forward.
I just don't know if this holds any weight or not, but it seems to me that my dad made it a buildable lot. He paid for the betterment fees to be tied into the sewer system. Doesn't that make it a buildable lot? I would think that's a major thing there too. That's just something else I wanted to make sure you knew.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak either in favor or in opposition? Feel free.
Paula Flannery, 100 Bryant. It's hard to speak to this in a way because It holds a lot of emotional weight. But trying to stay in the present, I think it makes sense from every point of view that this lot be sold, a home be built, and it be used, you know, as a neighborhood asset. This section of land, we have lived next door to it. I was born in the house. My husband and I now live in the childhood home. Jim grew up there, the rest of our siblings. The intent, the feel of the neighborhood, I think would be enhanced. We would be maintaining some of the history. That farmhouse, there's a picture of the barn right out here in the case, the showcase of the barn at 90 Bryant Street. It's got a lot of history, it's got a lot of value, it's got a lot of emotional value, and it's got a lot of weight. That whole neck of the woods in our town is entrenched in history. Our dad actually sat on this board, Tom Lemire, for many years. And it just feels so right. And if it's not sold and built upon, it will just sit. You say you might like to buy it, but I might like to buy it. And we don't know what will become of it, right? No, but I don't think that that's the best use of it. I truly believe the integrity of the neighborhood would be enhanced. It's just there waiting for a house. If you drive down Bryant Street, you will see. There's many small lots, there's many modest homes, there's some very old homes. The house across the street was built in the early 1800s. The farmhouse that is being restored was built in the mid-1800s, but it needs a house. You know, it's perfect. It's a beautiful lot. Our neighborhood will be enhanced by it. Value of the homes will go up. And I really hope, there's a lot of little pieces to this, but I think when it all comes together, a variance would be very much in order. And my request is that you give my brother Jim a variance on this lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak either in favor or in opposition? So, gentlemen, obviously these are always difficult. Bob, any thoughts?
No, I can see a lot of value in what this lady said, what this gentleman said. I know there are legal issues, and I know that there are some past issues with variances that have been given. But this town has approved this as a buildable lot on more than one occasion. And because of the way life moves us all, things have changed a little bit. And I think the board should consider that there are contingencies that need to apply to various cases on a case-to-case basis. I've never been one on this board since I've been here, and I've been here a long time. I'm very careful about setting precedents because they can come back and bite us in the butt. And in certain cases, they have. So I'm very circumspect about that. But on the other hand, there are individual issues that come up. And sometimes we have to recognize that. I would be in favor of this, I believe, at this point. Unless I hear something that changes my mind, I would be in favor of approving this variance. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Bob. Halim?
It's a tough one.
I agree. I'm just concerned about the fact that, you know, the gentleman raises a pretty good point in that if we allow this one, then all the others with short on frontage and short on square footage, people are gonna start coming and asking us. I just look at the fact that this shed is in existence, right? And there's a case that says that if there's a substantial structure and a shed's been found to be a substantial structure, and it was in existence prior to the implementation of zoning, that a lot can be divided in order to accommodate a separate lot for that parcel, to accommodate that shed. or that structure, it should say.
I-
The word's
I
not should,
believe that's
structure.
why I
And
raised
and there's
that
a case to
question.
that. And I know that you sort of touched upon that. But I don't know if those set of facts necessarily apply to the circumstance, and that's why I've been asking about when these things are being divided. Because if we look at, so just as an example, if you look at parcel B and parcel C, if that was just one parcel, they would be able to carve that out with an A&R plan, irregardless of square footage and irregardless of frontage. They would be able to carve that out, and that would be another lot, and it would be buildable, based on that case. The only issue is whether or not there was setbacks. Here, this lot has already been divided, and that shed was already part of that lot. Now, was this an A&R plan? Yeah, I believe it was. Yes, it was an approval not required. I have issues with it, I have to say. I'm concerned about how we're gonna be able to answer to the ones that we've not granted in the past, and how we're gonna be able to handle what will be coming before us. And I wanna look at the uniqueness of this lot, and I think the only uniqueness that I find here is that there was, obviously there was a familial intent that went, over decades as to keep this as a separate lot. But I don't think that in and of itself has been persuasive, because I think other people have made similar arguments as well. One of them that leaps out at me is the one that's on William Street. The people came before us, I wasn't a voting member at that time, they came before us, and it was an undersized lot, it was kept separately for many, many years, and we didn't grant that one either. I don't know if you remember that one.
I remember that we never granted variances for undersized lots, but again, I think we do look at case-by-case basis. on
We do.
each,
I know we do.
I think, just looking at this, and I like to see whether Attorney McVeigh, if you can look into the shed structure and see whether there's any
Yeah,
case,
Does the fact that there's an existing structure or a substantial structure on the premises give you any type of weight to maintain buildability on the lot?
Short answer, no. I think it's definitively not a determining, it's not a determining factor. It adds weight, but I must have spent days looking through John's Westlaw account, and I'm being very upfront with you. It's not addressed, or if it is addressed, it just enhances the subdivision exception rule, but it doesn't apply buildability. It's this unique case in this set of circumstances. Believe me, I'd love to have it. I think that if there's any avenue that you could use to approve it would be through the pre-existing non-conforming use in the first paragraph of section 6, where you could make a finding that there was a use of the intent was always there for it to be a buildable lot. And what they're asking for here is just an expansion on that structure to forward that use. Just quickly, since I'm at the microphone, to what you said about the Williams Square, I wasn't here, don't know the case. In that case, did they have 3 different determinations that the lot was buildable?
No, they did not. That was a little bit different. So I know that you're trying to put some weight on that, but the fact that they acquired a variance, we've already had a case before in which a variance had been in place, they didn't act on the variance, similar to what the Lemieux did here, and then they came before us a decade, maybe more, later, and the request for a variance was denied. So in essence, you had a lot that was roughly almost 40,000 square feet just sitting there.
and again.
In the midst of a neighborhood that had been well-established with homes on lots of smaller size than the one that's just sitting there vacant. and we had a lot of opposition to that.
All I could say is we have some opposition here tonight. We have one gentleman, he seems extremely reasonable
No,
to either outcome. I would, right? I don't want to, Mr. Chair, I've said almost everything I can.
No, I get it. If you'd like to come up.
Paula Flannery, 100 Bryant. I didn't say before, and I definitely respect your point of view, but I do pretty much know everyone in the neighborhood. I've lived there over 70 years, and nobody has opposition to this. There might have been one neighbor down the road who said a few things to another neighbor, but I walk with my neighbors, I talk with my neighbors, I know my neighbors, I'm pretty friendly, right? And it's been kind of the common knowledge, this lot has been open for a very long time. They know it's my family lot, we talk about it all the time. At least 50 people have asked me about the lot over the years. So it's been very transparent, but no one is in opposition, and that's why no one's here,
Thank you.
okay? Thank you.
So, yes, absolutely.
Attorney McVeigh. Sorry, and I know because I think in some way, parcel E and parcel C, two different ownerships, but kind of connected, family or whatever, and that's why I asked about this before, the area on, I don't know if there's a potential of changing lot lines. And again, I think, did the quick math, I think you might be able to satisfy the 40,000 square feet. The frontage might be tough, but if you're short 10, 15 feet on frontage, this is something you have to discuss with your client. Again,
Understood. Obviously, the preference is to get an approval tonight.
with variances, again, you exhaust all options too before you get a variance. So I think in this
Yeah.
case, maybe if they want to work together as the family members, I know it's a matter of changing the lot lines. Maybe in the back, just skewing the lot just a bit so
gotta
you can get.
I respect that. You also understand, there's like an ancient stone wall, like I said earlier, that delineates these two properties. And then, do you want to speak?
I know exactly what you're saying.
That would be us, and there is an ancient stone wall, and then it would not give us enough frontage on our property to be able to do that.
What do you have for front? Well, ask a question.
I think you said you had 170 feet for frontage? So
Right.
we're not touching your frontage. We can't make another conforming lot non-conforming.
Right.
But if you can maintain the 40,000 square feet, and again, it's lot lines, you don't have to touch the stone wall, it's just lot lines. And now, if you're coming here for a variance on a frontage that is almost 85% conforming and the area is conforming, you have a much better chance, I think, So, but this is something you might want to, physically it probably won't change the thing
On paper, so we have a shed on that corner
I
that would
looked
have
at
to be
this shed,
his.
you don't apply the set, if I may, Attorney McVeigh, if you want to approach the bench, again, this is something that you might want to discuss with your client. So, this is the lot, I think, this is the existing setback, you remain that, maybe skewing this corner here on an angle just to get the lot, the area that you need, you follow? So this becomes part of.
This is Brian.
No, this is the lot, this is E, correct?
Yeah, where's the way?
No, the public, we're not, the public way, you would have to change this lot line to get another 15 feet or the 20 feet. And again, and I can't speak for other members, but, if you're coming here with the lot that it's 40,000 square feet and with the frontage that is close to 150, even though we've never, you're not asking for a variance on the two non-conforming, so I think, and again, it's a lot line.
Okay.
I'm not sure how my other colleagues feel about this. This is my
The other thing I'd like to
suggestion.
do is,
don't
I
know what
haven't
the-
been out to this site. I'd also like to get a sense of what this looks like.
Nope.
I haven't been there. So,
Continue.
yeah, I think that might be, because I want to give it the due consideration it deserves. Obviously, you know, there's some level of, I don't want to use the word just emotion, but this means a lot to these people, and I understand that. And I don't want to just, you know, deny something lightly. If I do so, one way or the other, grant or deny, I have to do it with good rationale in applying the law that we all have to apply.
I agree. I mean, this is why I said this is a tough case. It's
It's a
not.
very difficult
And we've
one.
been trying to balance it by giving you your right and again, apply the zoning bylaws. That we are here to apply the zoning bylaws and without being partial to anyone or, you know, so we have to be fair to everyone else. And again, this gentleman said, you know, I have this case but in this case, I feel that because you have the determination from the previous building commissioner, you did come in front of the board and you did, and for some reason you did not do it. But there's a lot of cases too that we have to think about this, that might come in next week and say, yeah, but if somebody comes in with the similar case that they came to the board 3 times and they, you know, we might have to look at it and differently, so.
I just look at it this way, I mean, I'm not sure you're talking about these other cases. But were they paying taxes on a buildable lot, which
Absolutely,
is what I've been
absolutely.
paying taxes on? Or were
Absolutely.
they paying taxes on $10,000 a year?
No, they were paying taxes.
And trying to change it over to a buildable lot when they want to build.
Right.
I mean, I would think that's a pretty,
Did you hear what we said? We said, yes, those people were paying taxes as if it was a buildable lot, and that didn't make a difference. It's really not a consideration for us. Okay, certainly.
So just one quick point, as you've not been out to the site yet, there is really only 3 outcomes for this piece of property. 1, I absorb it. 2, they absorb it, or you allow it to be built on.
Or it stays the way it is.
Well, no, you're absolutely right, and then it becomes the public's problem. So if it remains in the same state that it's in currently, the public would likely have to spend money to make it look nicer, right? So that's gonna cost the people, because you're gonna have to send DPW down there to clean it up. But, I mean, that's a choice. I guess then there's 4. But the one right now is likely the most reasonable and the most likely to end up in a positive. Because if I absorb it and then I leave and someone chooses to subdivide, they can, right? And create a standard where they are able to build 2 houses on that by knocking my house down. If someone gets
Yeah,
their property.
I can't answer that question because I don't have the plan that shows what your lot is, because I don't know what your square footage is. I don't have any of that.
I don't think
And I
this lot is over,
I don't
1
know.
acre.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I can go to my car and get it. I haven't left.
It's all right. I gotta go by and take a look at it. So at this point in time, if you guys are okay with this, I'd rather continue the matter. I'd rather continue it.
Yeah, the microphone.
Can you hear me?
I don't know
Or
if
they,
everybody
you
else
don't know if
can.
they can hear me, I got you. All right, so this is the current plot lines for what is now 4 parcels. This was A, this has now become A2, right? B and C, and then this is E.
Okay.
The original argument is that when A and B were subdivided, or A, B, and C were subdivided, the owner of E happened to also own C, right? E then gave C to his son, correct? And his daughter moved into E, okay? My lot was then subdivided in 2002 to create what is now half of B. So my only point is either the city takes this over or one of these 2 properties takes this over, or you allow someone to build a house on it.
or it stays the way it is. The
Well,
town,
that's the
the town
city
doesn't have an,
taking it over. That's
yeah,
the
the
town
town doesn't have an
department.
obligation to take anything over.
Okay.
A private property owner has a responsibility
If
to
they're
maintain their
paying
property.
taxes, how can you take it over?
Well, I presume at some point he wouldn't be capable of paying the taxes.
At that point, you have some other, at that point, you have some other decisions to make.
Right.
I get that.
All right,
But
let's
that, I mean, that's
continue.
all I'm saying. That's what we're talking about here.
Thank you. All right, so when's our next hearing date?
22nd.
We have one on the 5th, but we're.
We have one when?
June 5th,
Right, the next one's June 5th,
yeah, but we're
well, we're booked. All right, so what's the one after that?
26th.
June 26th? Okay. And we don't have anything on at that right now?
No, we're gonna have back-to-back meetings, that's all.
Excuse me?
We'll have back-to-back meetings, 26th and the 10th, because we don't have any cases on the 26th.
So June 26th. All right. Are you willing to agree to a continuance to June 26th?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Fair enough.
Do we need an extension, or?
And are we gonna need an extension? Yes, if, obviously, you'll sign whatever documentation we need in order to ensure.
You want to schedule the site visit, or is that subsequent?
I think I could just go on my own.
Oh, okay.
I would be able to do that. Is anyone willing to put forth a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that on variance CAV 24-2, we make a continuance to the 20, what'd you say, the 26th of June, 2024.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. All right, moving on, gentlemen, to the administrative portion of tonight's hearing. Find my agenda here. Here we are. First matter we have is review and approval of administrative minutes of March 27, 2024. Any comments? I don't have any comments,
I
gentlemen.
have no comments, Mr. Chair, I wasn't here.
Gentlemen, doctor? Oh, thank you. Human?
No comments.
I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the, no, it's over. No, it's continued.
You have an attorney, speak to him. He'll tell you.
I make a motion that we approve the administrative minutes of March 27, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Next is review and approval of minutes of March 27, 2024, special permit ZSP 24-1, 1115 Tucker Road.
I have no comments, Mr. Chair.
I have no comments, Mr.
No comments. Any comments, gentlemen?
Motion that we approve the minutes of March 27, 2024 for special permit ZSP 24-1 for 1115 Tucker Road.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, the ayes have it. Next is review and approval of minutes of March 27, 2024, special permit ZSP 24-2, 20 Charles Joseph Drive.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
No comments.
No comments.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes of March 27, 2024 for special permit ZSP 24-2 for 20 Charles Joseph Drive.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it.
Aye.
Next is review and approval of minutes of March 27, 2024, special permit ZSP 24-3, 38 Lakeside Avenue. It was continued to April 10, 2024.
Oh, no comments, Mr. Chair.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
Gentlemen?
No comments.
No, none. All right, gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes for special permit number ZSP-24-3.
What?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Next is review and approval administrative minutes of April 10, 2024.
No comments.
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
No comments.
Thank you.
Make a motion that we approve the administrative minutes of April 10, 2024.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Review and approval of minutes of April 10, 2024, special permit ZSP 24-3, 38 Lakeside Avenue.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
No comments, Mr.
I
Chair.
don't have any comments. Gentlemen?
No comments.
All right.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes of April 10, 2024 for special permit ZSP 24-3 for 38 Lakeside Ave.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Next is review and approval of administrative minutes of April 24, 2024.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
No comments, Mr.
I
Chair.
have no comments. Motion?
Make a motion that we approve the minutes for April 24th, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Review and approval of minutes of April 24, 2024, SME 18-month extension, 1 Anderson Way.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
Chair, I made some corrections on that.
Sure.
And I gave them to Michelle.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk, Mr. Human. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes of April 24, 2024 for SME 18-month extension, 1 Anderson Way.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. And last but not least, review and approval of minutes of April 24th, 2024, special permit ZSP 24-4, 74 Lucy Little Road.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
Just do that?
Excuse me?
Didn't we just do that?
No, we did Anderson Way.
This is the one you corrected.
Then this is the one I gave the correction.
Okay,
All right,
fair enough.
you got it.
That's fine. I get a second?
Second.
Did you,
we-
actually, no, did you make a motion?
No.
Can you make a motion on it
Make a
for-
motion that we approve the minutes of April 24, 2024, special permit ZSP 24-4 for 74 Lucy Little Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. All right, so that wraps up pretty much everything that we have. Is there any business that we need to discuss, gentlemen?
No.
New or old business?
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Lisa, second. All in favor?
Aye.
And the ayes have it. Have a nice evening, everyone.
Thank you.